Sleeper of the Mountain. Man, I tell you what, this morning we've got a lot of stuff going on. I hope you enjoy it. But first, I would like to welcome any new viewers, any new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing, and I hope you really enjoy what we have going on here. Today we're going to do some heavy lifting. I mean, we talk about doing a little bit every day because a lot of littles make a big. But today is some big stuff going on because all the littles have added up and now we've gotten to a big. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Well, isn't that a sight for sore eyes? I'm telling you what. We've got the tires on the independent rear end. We've got it setting in place pretty much. And we've got to make some adjustments. So let me show you what we have. Originally, the front would mount right here to these pods, and a bolt would come up through the bottom, and that brace goes right up and connects to the frame right here, and it's all part of this frame, and it does it on both sides. The problem is we have this frame rail here and the frame rail over here, and there's just no room for everything to be in the same place at the same time. So we're gonna have to cut this off, and we're gonna have to cut this one off and put a cap on the metal on both ends, and then we can move this forward a good 4.5 inches to get this guy lined up with this guy so that our drive shaft is the right length, and we'll have the rear end in the right place. Then we can build the brackets to hold it in place, and we got to build another bracket back here and another one right here, only forward 4.5 inches. This is where the springs come up. I'm not going to be using these springs probably. I'm probably going to be using lighter springs. These springs came out of the back of the Cougar, and my word, they are heavy. Well, so was the car. Hopefully I'm going to go over to a buddy of mine's house. He said he's got a bunch of springs. I'm going to bring these ones with me, and we'll figure out if he's got a set that'll work better. I need essentially the same dimensions of spring, but not so heavy. So we'll see what he's got. And I have to figure out shock mounts. And I have to remove all these old brackets that went to the old rear end. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brackets I have to pull off. And the 2 things I got to cut off. And then I can get it in position and we can see what we need to hold it in place. I'm not sure how much of this will get done today, but we're going to give it the old college try. Okay, we got it cut off. You can see how it's just kind of a curl of metal. I'm going to be welding a plate over that to hold all that stuff stable. I have worked for enough corporations that I know exactly how they operate. If you remove any of their metal, you're removing something important. And the reason for that is automotive companies have CAFE standards. And if you don't know what a CAFE standard is, that is a requirement by the government for a certain level of fuel efficiency for the entire fleet. So everything is going to be built as lightweight as possible and yet still do the job. So if you cut anything off, you're removing stability, you're removing that strength. So you have to make up for it. Well, as you know, these bars were in the way, and so I had to cut them off, and now I've got this open hole. I'm going to weld a plate over that in order to restore the strength as best I can. Let me show you what I mean by that. So when you cut the end off like this, it compromises the structure. It's kind of like having a cup or a bowl like this, and you see how it distorts real easy? With all these connections to the suspension and everything right here, if I were to hit a pothole, that thing would just distort, and I'd never get it back where it belongs. I don't know how on earth I would ever fix that if it bent. And when you put a lid on it, it gets its strength back. Well, that's the theory I'm working with on welding a metal plate over that open hole so that when I hit a pothole, it won't distort. That's the plan. So let me fit a piece of metal on there. All right, now we get to break out the CAD system. I love working in my CAD system. You know, cardboard aided design. And what I do is I take the piece I cut off and I stick it on the cardboard. Then I draw around it. And then I'll have to do one of these for each side. And then once I get it like that, take my knife, cardboard off, and I take my scissors, and hopefully this will fit exactly. Then we take this and we set it over the hole. That's pretty darn close. That's close enough. I'm going to now trace this on a piece of metal and then make the metal fit perfectly and then weld it. All right, I found this piece of scrap metal. This is a piece of channel iron. I have no idea what it was used for. Doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is this almost the identical thickness of that structure, and it's in fact just a tiny bit thicker, and so it's going to work. I've decided. Now in this one corner, you see I drew a little half circle there. I happen to know that water is going to get inside of this. There's just no way to get around it. It's just going to happen. So I'm going to take advantage of this pre-drilled hole from whatever this was used in before, and I'm going to use that as a drain hole. This is the lowest point on this cup patch. And so I am going to just set this here. I'm going to trace around it. I'm going to cut this out and clean it up so that when water does get inside of that tube that I'm capping off, the water has a way to get out. And this is, like I said, the lowest point, so it should do the job. Well, that looks pretty nice. I think that'll do. Now let's see how that fits. That's gonna work just right. We're gonna weld that on there. I got a nice little ditch there to weld in. This will be nice. And then of course we have the drain hole. That's so nice. That's going to work. Well, you know, I never claimed to be the best welder in the world. I never claimed to be a professional welder. I never claimed to be a certified welder. But I do know that in the factory, you must be a certified welder in order to weld up a frame. I mean, I would imagine that just for legal reasons, and when it comes to, you know, liability and everything, there should be some kind of certification that's required so that when something fails, there's you know, some protection for the company. So, you know, it's been my experience that people certify, you know, the companies will certify guys so that they can go, well, our certified welder did it, it must be something else. So let me show you my welds. Now, they're not perfect. They're not the prettiest. They're not the best. I know that. But before you go start, you know, posting memes of blind people saying the welding looks good from your viewpoint and stuff like that, let's get a little context here. This is my weld. Welding on the cap. Yeah, not that pretty, right? Well, let's take a look at the factory welds. I'll take a little tour of the factory welds. Yeah, I think mine are good enough. If that's good enough for the factory, my goodness, this is good enough for me. When I've got the caps on these things I cut off, I think it's time to drop the frame back down over the rear end and get it in place. Well, this is as far as we're getting today. Check it out. I've got the flange right where I need it. You can see I've cut the ears off of that support bracket. I don't know if you can see that in the sunshine. There's that one on that side. It's missing the frame. And it's centered in this hole. And this hole are the same distance from the inside of the frame on either side. Everything's level. And the gap right there is about 1/2 inch. And it's the same over here. I don't know if you can see that or not. But yeah, it's pretty tight. But with everything where it's at, the original driveline should fit with the right U-joint. So that I'm excited about. I don't have to change the drive shaft. She's sitting where she's got to be for right now. And then we can do the pinion angle after we get the front mounts in. Because the front mounts I'm going to mount right in here. And they're going to be able to pivot just enough to get the pinion angle right, so that we have a nice smooth transition of power between the transmission and the rear end. Because once it's set in place, it's going to stay there, because that pumpkin doesn't go up and down. It stays locked in place, and only the wheels and tires and brakes go up and down because it's independent rear suspension. Getting closer, guys. But if you want to see me finish it, you're going to have to come back another day when I get to work on it again and I can get the front mounts made. It'll be sweet. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming on by and sticking with me on this. This is a slow process. I'm making, you know, 8 pounds of potatoes fit in a 5-pound sack, and it's just, you know, really difficult sometimes to get things exactly where they need to be and reinforced and all that stuff. And so if you like this kind of stuff and, you know, engineering on the fly, things like that, well, if you don't mind, go ahead and like and subscribe. And you know what, maybe next time it'll be even more fun, because I know I'm having a blast. I hope you are too. And remember, do a little every day because a lot of littles make a big.